Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dexterous Lifestyle podcast with your co hosts, me, Andie Hancock, and
And me, Kelly Powell. Welcome.
today we have our wonderful, most prolific entrepreneurial guest we have so far, Liletta, or you can call her Leeta Harlem. One of her businesses is My Natural Me. Leeta, would you like to tell us more about that?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. So, My Natural Me is a Virginia state nonprofit organization, and we are all about helping girls and women to feel honored, empowered, and refreshed. And so, we do that from just a number of different ways, from coaching programs to education to programs, groups, everything that a woman would need in order to really have what she needs to feel valued. And I always believe that starts with how you see yourself. So a lot of my programs are all about just helping strengthen that relationship that you have with yourself.
In a world filled with chaos, we try our best to create a balanced lifestyle. We love to be productive, but we also love to rest. We love to be efficient, but not at the cost of our peace. There is a direct correlation between our habits and our happiness. The dexterous lifestyle is meant for those of us who live hectic lives. But with the right tools, information, and resources, we can strive for order, peace, health, wealth, and calm. It's not too much to ask. We deserve a dexterous mind, a dexterous body, and plenty of dexterous spaces to support our dexterous lifestyle.
So, you have a nonprofit focused on women. That in itself is a huge thing. I think a lot of times women are not just overlooked in their needs, but just underestimated in what we need. And we don't really get to take the time to not only know ourselves, but
Mhm.
honor when we are in need of help, in
Right.
need of a break. How about that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
tell us the backstory, your origin story of like why you started this My Natural Me nonprofit.
Yeah, so for years, I've always been about empowering women. Just growing up from, a single mom, raising my sister and I, and having a strong mother, strong grandmother. I've been exposed to strong women. Um, but I've also been on the other side where I suffered with major depression, hospitalized because of depression, things like that. And so there was always kind of like this divide of like what you can be, but then when there's these limitations that don't allow you to be there. So as I work through my own journey of overcoming depression, and I talk very publicly about my battle with depression in the past, and being in hospitals on suicide watch, disappointed because I hadn't been successful. And so going through that and navigating through that, I think one of the last real incidents that I had when I was in a hospital, and I was just so dark inside. I was so disappointed in just life and myself. And I remember thinking, obviously I wasn't successful in my attempt, but I remember praying, and I always had a strong faith, but sometimes depression can be louder than your faith. And in that moment, I remember praying and I said, if you really want me to live, one, let me know. Two, if I survive this, I will do everything in my power to show you I appreciate life and to help other women never have to end up where I am right now, or at least know how to recover from it. So I, of course, made it out of that situation. And I lived up to that. I've worked very, very hard on my faith and my relationship with God, and just making sure that I live a life that goes along with that. But also very passionately creating programs, and even when I've been on the corporate side, I'm typically always like in the women's groups and things like that, because it doesn't really matter what your status is. Every person can really suffer from self doubt and insecurities that can lead to depression and that pain. And it breaks my heart when I know that so many women still really suffer with that. Women who put on a face at work and in these other situations, and then come home and are very sad and depressed and dark on the inside. So that's really how I really got into just doing this work. And what I love about the title of My Natural Me, most people assume when they first see that it has to do with natural hair of some sort, right?
Mhm.
That's what most people think. And of course, then when they see me, they make that natural connection. But really, what My Natural Me is all about, it's helping women learn how to love themselves naturally. So when you strip away the titles, the makeup, the you're a boss here, you're a wife here, you're a sister here, when you strip all that away, can you look at yourself and say, I love me, with all those layers gone? And that's really what My Natural Me is all about.
That's
I
so
love that.
powerful.
It is very powerful. In the industry in which we work, of course, we're working with people on change, various changes in their lives that most of the time are rooted with organization, but it goes much deeper than that. But one of the things that we try really, really hard to keep intact is self acceptance. In fact, we were speaking about it earlier today, meeting yourself where you are, right?
Mhm.
Celebrating who you are right now.
Yep.
We all have the road paved ahead of us for growth, but
Mhm.
sometimes we can be so fixated on the future me that we don't honor who we are right now. This person right here should be celebrated for being the catalyst to the future me.
Yeah.
Sometimes we miss that in all our striving to be and to do and to accomplish. We forget
So true.
we're the vessel, you know. We
Yeah.
are the source of that forward movement. And
Yeah.
I think that's what speaks to me or jumps out to me as you're speaking about my natural me, because it sounds like you're meeting people where they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
that's
so true. Yeah, thank you for saying that. I just, in fact, one of my clients, we were just talking about wins. And I said, I was telling her, I want you to start really thinking about your win. And, again, get off of social media and all that and what those wins look like, right? When I say a win, I mean maybe today you journaled. Maybe today you stopped yourself from that negative self-talk. You did something, you took 10 minutes and just paused and reflected on your day or something positive. That's a win, because to your point, we're going, 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 and we have so many messages against us. I mean, if you think about and I remember one time my therapist reminded me of this, in that if you get up, let's just say from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, right? If you watch the news, and I believe the number was like 100, it could have been slightly more or less. But she said around 100 messages from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock from you just watching the news, right? Negative messages about who you are as a woman. If you think about that, from commercials, advertisements, the things that are happening in the news, you will receive at least around 100 negative messages about who you are as a woman. Now, add to that, you hop on social media, you have these various relationships with people. We are bombarded with negativity about who we are. So I really am big on that. Stop, celebrate those wins. We have to counteract all the negative messaging that we get about just who we are.
yeah.
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 And one of the things that you mentioned earlier in your story just kind of really resonated with me in that I was thinking about an interview I saw with Viola Davis and Oprah Winfrey, and surprisingly, and not so surprisingly actually, she talked about her success and how at the pinnacle of her success, her winning Emmys and Oscars and things of that nature, she just felt hollow and empty. And so that goes to show what you were saying, that who am I? Do I like myself without this title, without these awards, without the good grades or the high pay or the red bottom shoes or whatever it is
Yeah.
that, society has said makes me a great person? Because you might climb for those things and you might achieve them. When you strip all of that away and you don't like yourself, the message is you're not going to like yourself better with all of those achievements and all of those things.
Yeah.
So it's good, like you said, and Kellie even emphasized, to celebrate the wins and celebrate each step of the way.
Right.
And that really resonated with me because one of my three words for 2023 is presence. And
Mm.
for me, that means not focusing on, too far ahead in the future. I mean, of course, there is some planning that is necessary to be a mature person, right? And,
Right.
and not looking at the past, because that nothing I can do could change that. But being present and making choices for the moment that
Mhm.
are healthy for me, that are what I need in that moment. And my goodness, I mean, it's just March, and already I've having that mindset has changed so much for me. I really celebrate that message.
I love it. I love it. And when I think about too, when you're talking about just, movement and things like that, what also comes to mind is being honest with ourselves. And again, as women, especially women of color, but I think this is universal, really just for all women, we're really good at pretending, at hiding behind this strong front, right? And I remember when I was in a really bad depressed state, and someone said to me, "Well, you're the happiest depressed person I've ever met."
Mm,
And I remember just having this conversation because they were so shocked that I was actually dealing with depression. They were so shocked that I had these thoughts of not wanting to go on. And when I thought about it myself, and I said, well, I can kind of see how that's confusing. But then I thought about it and I said, growing up low income, we weren't really allowed to like talk about like what was bad at home, like that there was no father there, and just, the struggle that my mom had. Like that was taboo. Like you don't let people know what's going on. So you put this kind of pretense up, right? And then later in life, I was in an abusive relationship, and again, I had to keep this front up in front of everyone else. So by the time, later in life as an adult dealing with depression, I had gotten good at pretending that everything was okay. So that's another message that I always try to share with people. Yes, there is a time and place to be the strong front and, make sure everything is good, but I really encourage just honesty with yourself and with others, right? Because no one can help you if you do have that pretense up, And again, especially for the Black community, we have to be open about where we're suffering. Mental health is huge. One of my programs, and I'm kind of skipping ahead, but one of my programs that we just launched is about caregivers of dementia people, people that are suffering with dementia. And we really focus on the minority groups. We don't exclude anyone, but we're really focused on minorities. And part of the reason, there's a lot of reasons why minorities, especially Black and Brown people, are not getting the help that they need when it comes to dementia. But one of the major reasons is because historically we don't deal with mental health. right? We don't talk about it, we don't acknowledge it. Back in the day, they really didn't talk about dementia, someone, oh, they're just getting old or they're senile, right? We don't talk about these things. We have to be honest. We have to stop looking at it as this shame, and let's deal with the truth. That's the only way to really heal. I mean, you talked about present, right? That is how you're really present. Like when you're hiding behind layers of pretense and masks, that's not really being present. Present is acknowledging the pain, the ugly, the bad, all of it, right? That's true presence. And so that's just another big thing that I really want to emphasize. And really, when I go on any platform, let's start being honest about where we really are, especially when it comes to mental health.
I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yes, yes, we both. It's such a powerful thing, honesty. And people talk about it all the time, and I think, use the word honest sometimes in not an honest way, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And so to really, double down on that, dig deeper into that honesty, sometimes it's the hardest to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the first person you need to be honest with, right?
Right.
And so when the block starts there, then how do you get help?
Yeah.
It's impossible unless somebody is, able to kind of discern and see some earmarks. And sometimes they may see things that they too have experienced, and they're able to see it and discern it in you. But otherwise, it kind of, you know, creates this suffering and silence because you haven't come to terms with it yet. And with that honesty, of course, comes the vulnerability. And I
Mhm.
think that's the scary part of
Yeah.
honesty,
Yeah.
is that vulnerability that makes us feel like, oh no, we're somehow lesser because we've already been dealing with maybe those messages, as you mentioned earlier. We deal with those messages constantly,
Yeah.
bombarded with it. And now we're coming to terms with something else that we feel makes us lesser,
Yeah.
because of what we've been taught from maybe that family of origin and so forth. It's hard. It's simple to say,
Yeah.
Mm.
very hard to implement and really dig down and come to terms with. So I love that you're kind of shining the light on that, and not just shining the light, Lita, but something that, because I see so much of what you're doing in the community at large. You shine the light on it, but you also offer support.
Mm.
And that's like where it's really at, right? Because we can shine the light on something and go, this is what we need to be doing. But then where's the action?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the action? Where's the action to help people to come to terms with things, to help even ourselves with honesty, and offering that help in the community is just golden, and something that I really do admire and give you your flowers for,
Mm.
because you you walk the walk. You
Thank you.
back up the words that you talk, and that is, it's phenomenal, really.
Wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I received that. Thank you.
One of the things that you mentioned earlier about being open and vulnerable, or kind of, those are the words that Kelly used, but it's the same um, sentiment. It just drew back to me the writings of Brene Brown. Kelly and
Yes.
I are really fans of Gifts of Imperfection and other works that she's done. But one of the things that I think is a huge piece to the being vulnerable and talking about it is finding that person that you can trust with
Hmm.
that, because you just can't come out and open up your um your clothing and say, "Here
Yeah.
I am, world."
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
you're going to be bombarded with a lot of negative messages because not everyone is um, honorable enough. Let's just
Right.
put it that way, to see all of that, to see all of you. And so I think, um, just seeking, and we might not, it might not even be in our immediate circle, and
Yeah.
you might have to pay for a therapist
Yeah.
or a counselor of some sort.
Yeah.
But we need it.
Yeah. I'm a big, everyone knows I am team therapy, team talk to someone. If it's,
Me too.
I like some people prefer the traditional licensed therapist. Some people prefer a mentoring type program, coaching program. Whatever it is, you have to talk to someone else.
You can connect with Leeta on mynaturalme.org.
Mhm,
Her Facebook and Instagram are at Natural Me Woman, if you
mhm.
want to connect with her on social media. And she is offering our listeners one of her books. So you go to her website and take a look and reach out to get one of those books. Thank you so much, Leeta.
Thank you.
You
You
deserve
deserve good things.
good
Yes.
things.
Love it. You
And you
deserve good
deserve.
things. A dexterous lifestyle.
All right.